Being with the outcast. Jesus set out that day to do the ministry that he was called to do, to create an atmosphere of forgiveness and tolerance for all. He was never a part of the inside group, always the one on the outside. And this day, he wanted that group of people who were never accepted in society to know that they were not lost, that they were not sick, they could be healed, they could be forgiven. So he sat down to share a meal with them, to put his hand in the bowl of the hummus or the olive oil, to break off a piece of bread and share it with another, to pour out wine from a jug into his glass, and that was a shared jug with others, to have conversation around the table about life, love, and forgiveness of sins. These were literally lost ones. A tax collector assumed that role because there was no other work in town for him. No one else would hire him. He had no family skills to inherit. He wasn't taught to be anything, but he had an affinity for numbers, and he also knew everyone in town. He knew and understood the economics of that town better than any of the Romans who ruled. So he had his own value, even if the town itself considered him lost. You see, Jesus' ministry needed leaders, disciples, and they were needed from the areas where his ministry was targeted, those who were not forgiven. Tax collectors were just a step above the lowest of any group, and to many they were traitors to their own heritage and their faith, sinners who were not accepted in the synagogue. And yet Jesus chose Levi, Matthew, to be one of his own. And when he called him, Levi leaves his tax collection booth and immediately follows Jesus. I wonder how they spent their day. Perhaps with Levi, they visited other tax collectors and invited them to a dinner meeting to hear some good news. They trusted Levi, and dinner was at his home, so why not go? It was easy for Jesus to be with these outcasts because it's really who Jesus was too. James Merritt calls Jesus a misfit, out of place with the rest of the religious world. A teacher who healed and offered forgiveness instead of demanding something be given. A man who brought the outcast into his space or entered theirs, not pushing them away. A man who allowed children to come to him and told the world they should be like children. These tax collectors are part of God's world, created by God in the image of God. Why should they be outcast or cast out? Jesus' entire life was sharing mercy and love. He was the heartbeat of God right here on earth for us to see. And if we want to be like Jesus, we need that same heartbeat. Gather the outcast and bring them in. Sit with them. Eat with them. Share your time with them. Those who already know don't need to be told. Those who have been forgiven understand forgiveness. Those who have love give love. The sick need healing, not those who are well. And if we are going to be like Jesus, we can't simply tell the stories. We must act them out. We go where they are, the coffee shops, the restaurants, our places of business, and the grocery stores, in living rooms and football stadiums as we cheer for our teams, share the word of Jesus, forgiveness, and life for all. Look everywhere, because there's no telling where the lost one might hide, in a crack in the floor of abuse, behind a door of trafficking, buried under the weight of depression or shame, or simply in the plain sight right beside you. What will happen if you don't find them? Are you willing to leave them where they are? What if someone you loved and simply walked away from them? If you call yourself a Christian, you cannot just sit here and leave the sick, sick.